Welcome to Her Seat at the Table, a conversation series featuring badass women in food and beverage and their experiences in the turbulent, ever-changing, and utterly human industry of hospitality. I'm your host, Sarah Abernethy. I'm a North Carolina-based restaurateur and entrepreneur evolving into my next era in food and beverage. I'm on a mission to share candid conversations, lessons learned, and newfound inspiration with you through a female-led perspective. Thank you for joining me at the table today. Today I am talking with the incredible, award-winning, highly regarded Dana Cowin. She is an editor, an author, and a convener who propels change through food and joy. She is the founder of the Progressive Hedonist movement, which I have been following and I've been really captivated by in the last few years, especially as this issue of climate change becomes more and more daunting and insurmountable. Dana has such an incredible approach to integrating really approachable practices into your day-to-day life that definitely make a difference, but they also make a difference for you and the quality of your life. Dana launched Progressive Hedonist as a national event series to build resilience, support local food, reduce food waste, and deepen commitments to healing the planet through joyful gatherings. She is very into joy. I am very into joy. So we definitely connect on that front. Before her Progressive Hedonist era, she was the editor-in-chief of Food and Wine magazine for more than 20 years, leading all aspects of that brand, including print, digital, books. She has written extensively on food and culture, including a cookbook. She has been a judge on Top Chef. She has been a judge on Beat Bobby Flay, a speaker at South by Southwest, the Welcome Conference, TEDx, you name it. She is so cool. She has such a great story to tell, and I am just so honored that she agreed to spend some time with me. Thank you, Dana. So please enjoy my conversation with Dana Cowin.
Hello!
Hi!
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just turning off my... Hi!
Are you at home?
I'm at home.
I love your pink lamp. I have a pink lamp too.
I'm obsessed with my crazy lamps. Yeah.
Do you have more than one crazy lamp?
Well, there's a pair of them.
Oh,
and I found them on an auction site. I had them delivered, but the delivery cracked the base. So they're very janky, but I love them entirely.
I love a funky lamp. I've had a very good time styling this situation.
Yes, what you see behind you.
Yes, it's been fun. I have taken over this room in our house has a sliding door and there's no closet, so it's not really a bedroom, but the house kind of lives like it is a bedroom, I guess. I've taken it over unapologetically, and it's just it's a very feminine space. There's
so pretty. Oh, beautiful outside. Well, we're not quite there yet in the Northeast.
How is it in New York today?
Super chilly. But
really?
the forsythia are blooming. They're growing, they're sprouting, they're yellow. I mean, it's very, very pretty, but we need some green on the trees. Yeah.
That's so funny because it's so green here.
Oh, I can't wait till I get to that amount of green.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Here we are. It's so nice to see your face. Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you so much for making the time to do this.
Of course.
So kind of you. So yeah, this is the point where I'm what do I say now? Because I'm still learning how to do this myself. This is a new-ish endeavor for me. I feel like you and I are similar in that I just have a lot of content creative ideas around personal ethos and mission statement. And this is something that I tried on last year when I was super, super pregnant. And I knew that at some point during my maternity leave, I was going to be bouncing off the walls without some kind of creative project.
Yeah.
So I just let me just record 5 and try it on, and that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where it takes us. But I am committed to fulfilling this season with 20 interviews.
Wow, that's a lot.
I know.
Congrats.
But I'm so close. I'm almost there. And then at the end of the year, I'll just see how it feels, see
One step at a time.
one step at a time. And
It
there you
is.
have it.
I mean, just having conversations and sharing them. I loved when I was doing the podcast, which I'm not at the moment, but yeah, such a good excuse to go a little bit deeper and to bring people a new perspective. I applaud you for doing 20 and seeing how it feels.
Seeing how it feels. Well, thank you. Also, it's an excuse to catch up with people that you like.
Exactly.
I want to talk to. How long have you been a New Yorker? Are you from
Born,
that
bred,
area?
my whole life.
I mean, do you know that I lived there for a moment?
No, how long was your moment? And when was your moment?
It was very short. The moment in your 20s, your early 20s, when you're like, I'm going to the big city and I'm going to be a star. So it was like 2011,
Okay.
the early 2010s. I went there to pursue singing in theater, and I'm so grateful that I had that experience because even though it didn't necessarily unfold in the way that my 22-year-old brain thought that it would, it was so invaluable. And
Because you got it out
such a
of your
good time.
system, or because you got this great experience, or?
Yes, and I found myself. I know that sounds so trite and corny, but I really found myself. I'm so proud that I moved up there alone. Like I came off the train at Penn Station like a comic book
Wow.
strip with my like 2 suitcases,
Did you have a place to live? Did you have friends?
I had I had a couple friends.
Yeah.
And I went straight from Penn Station into the Brother Jimmy's restaurant location that's not there anymore on 8th Avenue by Madison Square Garden,
Sure.
where my friend was a waitress. They hired me as a hostess. She gave me the key to her apartment. And
this is such a great New York story. It is the New York story, right?
It is it. And like,
yeah,
that was that. And then I eventually truly got 100% ejected from the city all at one time. And it was okay because I was meant to move to Southern California and I was sent there to go meet my now husband. So.
It's good to believe in the universe.
Yes. So I too am back home in Raleigh where I grew up and was born and raised. Do you remember when you really started your relationship with food in like a real conscious way?
It's really easy to pinpoint because I didn't care a whole lot about food growing up. And I didn't have anyone in my family who cooked. Restaurants really weren't such a thing. I mean, we would go to a French restaurant for a very special occasion, someone's birthday. So the day that I started caring about food is the day that I started writing a proposal to take over Food in My magazine. I mean, that was it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I better really learn something about food now. And the education began 1994 and then hasn't stopped since. But easy.
I'm sure. And all the lessons you've learned in that time since you started that process. For those that don't know Dana or are getting introduced to Dana, she really is like an OG baddie in the world of publishing and media. She's been employed at Vogue. She's had a turn at H&G and perhaps most famously oversaw Food and Wine magazine for quite some time and has retired from the world of formal publishing, but still pursuing media, journalism, and advocacy in the world of food.
Yeah, I hate the word retired. I'm not sure what that word means, but I certainly ditched the world of magazines and media thinking that they were imploding. And I would have to say I was a little ahead of my time in that, like, magazines still exist. There's new indie magazines that are super fun and interesting to look at, and journalism shifted and changed. But the type of journalism that I wanted to do, which was lifestyle journalism, really lost my interest. I just felt like,
really,
yeah, I'd been doing the same. I was at Food and Wine for 20 plus years around this central thesis about bringing new ideas to the audience in order to expand their taste, their travel, what they knew about wine, and just bringing pure pleasure. And there's only so many ways to do that. And at the end of the day, it's also quite limited, because if you're really focused on the joy of that process, and because of the format, you're really not investigating any of the other outcomes, like, oh, well, so if we are growing things in a bad way, what does that mean? Like, so going back from the plate a little bit deeper, um, I knew that there was more that I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure what it was. I knew I wanted to leave. I also left in my mid-50s, and I was like, if I don't leave now, no one's going to hire me. I'm not going to get a second job or second career. And so I found a job to leave for, which is a little bit like jumping out a window and knowing you're going to land on broken glass. I'm like, it's not the perfect job, but I just really want to get out of here. And what's great about landing on broken glass is that when you get up and brush yourself off, you're like, anything from here is amazing. And so I have spent I spent 5 years doing coaching women in hospitality, so staying close to the world of food, and did a zine and some investing and some events, all sort of taking the model of what Food and Wine was, because Food and Wine was an editorial product, but we did events, and we did, there were all kinds of aspects to that. And so instead of having a publication be the center, there was an idea at the center, which is, how can I help in this world of women in hospitality? People realize their dreams and get over the challenges and like find new success, which is also a journey that I was on, because I was changing my life. And then I switched my focus away from women in hospitality, because what I recognized was there's amazing people like Randy at Fab who are building a beautiful community of extraordinary women in hospitality, or Sisterly Love in Philadelphia, and people all over the country, Abundance Setting in Chicago. And I would go and do events with these amazing women's group, and I'm like, I'm so happy to be here, but you guys kind of got this.
Yeah.
And so focused on something that I felt had more room to grow, which is the area that's the intersection of lifestyle and small changes that we can make to improve the future of the planet and the future of communities and our own futures.
Do you feel like right now you get to incorporate projects, commitments, and creations that resonate with you in sort of a beautiful swirl? Like you get to...
I feel so lucky, because doing Progressive Hedonist means I'm co-hosting events all around the country that are based on the 3 pillars, which is building resilience, reducing waste, including plastic, and investing in better ingredients that are better for us and better for the planet.
I have them written down right here.
Woohoo! Yes.
3 principles. So let's get into it. Yes, let's get into Progressive Hedonist, because obviously that's where we're going anyway. That's the end game here for our conversation, because it's just such a very cool movement and ethos, and it has grasped me by the heart, Dana, ever since I met you, and I really loved this idea of a Progressive Hedonist potluck. But what I really loved about the message you were spreading is the fact that incremental change at home, like millimeters worth of change that people can make in their everyday life, is important. It does matter, because it is so easy to look at this issue of climate change and want to go lay down in oncoming traffic and just be like, all right, like, I give up. It's fucked anyway.
Yeah.
And it has really adjusted how I've looked at least my own household. Not to mention our restaurant. So that is sort of like, it's definitely a different animal that's hard to control in a number of ways.
Yeah.
But at home, it really does make me feel hopeful and empowered and nourished at the same time. So how did Progressive Hedonist come to you?
I was trying to figure out after that speaking broadly time, what is it that I could do that felt like there was a greater need and a greater opportunity to impact what I saw as like the greatest challenge of the future. And now with, the world as it is, the world, I feel like there's so many challenges, but it does come back to always, we will need to eat. We will need water. We will need clean air. And that brings us back, yes, to climate change, but really how we treat our environment and nature, and learning that food, depending on who you ask and what the metric is responsible for 30% of greenhouse gases. You're like, it sort of blows your mind to recognize.
It does blow the mind. And let me repeat this again because it's so staggering. Almost roughly 30% of greenhouse gas emissions come from food systems, agricultural systems, the way we use land, the way we use the ocean, the way we don't tend to those things. It's staggering. And then the other statistic that I'm sure you're going to say in a moment is 1 billion meals go to waste in the trash.
Yeah. And that's globally, right?
Globally.
So 40% of our food gets wasted. And what is really fascinating to me is a lot of that waste is from the home refrigerator. You're like, what? I mean, it is also crops that are plowed under, and it's also what grocery stores throw out. I mean, it's many, many, many things. But the fact that if you just paid better attention to what you are buying, which would save you money, and then what was about to spoil, you could actually have an impact on the environment and your pocketbook. And I find it really fun. I find the challenge of what to do with things that are just on the edge in my refrigerator quite delightful.
It's like a Tetris board.
It really is. And I've been doing a lot of events that are focused on no waste. Every event that I do has a slightly different focus, but I did one on Monday, and it was called Bad Habits Make Good Meals. And the bad habit is, you buy all this stuff with so much optimism, you put it in your refrigerator or your pantry, and you kind of forget about it. And you look back and you're like, ugh, I really have to throw that thing out. Bad habit, buying too much of a thing that you don't know how you're going to use or when you're going to use. I'm really guilty of that, most particularly in lettuce. Like, lettuce talks to me and like grabs me by the lapels and is like, buy me, I'm beautiful. Yes. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy you. And this time I just have to, that and cilantro and parsley. I buy them just knowing that I really need those herbs. I don't always need the herbs. Anyway, so that was the theme of this potluck, and people brought just incredible things that would have never occurred to me. Someone created a tostada that was like quote unquote pulled pork, but it was really banana peels that had been treated, I know, like pulled pork. And then they work at Emma's Torch, which is like a culinary training program. And so they were serving fruit plates, and they had pineapple peels and cores left over from the fruit plates that they made. And they reduced the peels and the cores to make a pineapple syrup that became part of the barbecue sauce. And I was like, this is why we shouldn't throw anything out, because there is something to be done with everything. And, there was stale bread used for these beautiful bread puddings. And, excuse me, someone made a garbage green goddess dip.
Oh my God. What is in that?
It was so good. It was herbs and stems. The idea that we've been told to toss stems by whoever was the recipe goddess who said, trim and toss the stems. I'm like, why?
Blasphemy.
This is just really bad recipe writing. In any case, recipe standard. It's not the writing's the standard. So it was stems, mayo, but you can substitute yogurt if you want. And you could even do it with buttermilk, champagne vinegar, anchovies, and all these stems blitzed up. And it was so good that I really begged to take the leftovers home. And I like stood at my counter the next day and ate this green goddess with a spoon because it was so good.
I mean, it sounds, you
mean,
could put it on anything.
You could really truly put on anything.
Anything.
So, yeah, I love this idea of the creativity and the fun that you can have while saving things from the landfill or even compost, right? Like the idea would be to use ingredients to their highest purpose. And the highest purpose is for human consumption. Compost is lower. It's great because it goes back to the land. And the last thing you want to do, of course, is landfill. And I'm an urban person, so I think that we end up sending things to landfill more than someone who might have a backyard. So backyard compost would be so easy.
Just a quick break in today's conversation to extend an invitation to you. Your listenership and your support of the podcast truly, truly means the world to me. And it does take a significant amount of resources to produce this podcast. So if you have enjoyed these conversations, if you want to help continue ensuring that these conversations and this visibility are available to the women in our community and the people who need it most, I invite you to join our Her Seat at the Table Patreon community. You can join for as little as $3 a month, which is basically like buying me a cup of coffee, which would be very appreciated. And I do have some cute perks in there, everything from doing a live shout out of your name on an upcoming episode, all the way to an invitation to the upcoming Her Seat at the Table dinner party, which I host in the fall of each year in Raleigh, North Carolina. So thank you for considering, thank you for listening, and let's jump back into our conversation. There's a joke amongst my peers on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen this, that I went to the store and I almost forgot to buy a bag of mixed greens so I can throw it in the trash 2 weeks from now.
That is so me. It's terrible. But
it's so real.
But it is so real.
Like you go in and you have all these dreams about the woman you want to become because of this beautiful salad you're going to make with all this produce. But I mean, and really getting more familiar with you and the progressive hedonist movement has challenged me to just simply pay attention.
Yeah.
Because it's not it's such a very warm, welcoming invitation that I feel when I engage with you and when I engage with, can I call it PH? Can we say that? PH?
Sure.
PH.
Yeah,
progressive hedonist. It's not a shaming energy by any means. It's just like, think twice. Think twice about meal planning. What are you going to use this for? And really, I should be shopping about every 4 to 5 days. I shouldn't be shopping 2 weeks at a time.
I mean, ideally, I do think that there's life to consider, right? And everyone is imperfect. I'm so imperfect. I have a bag of broccoli leaves and spinach stems that are just waiting for me to make a pesto. And I'm like, someday. So I have a lot of compassion for people who do their best, right? You're just trying to do your best. So shop as frequently as you can so things are fresh and you're not overbuying, and then realize that, oh gee, you shouldn't have gotten the fourth avocado. Another problem of mine, like those avocados, I'm so excited about the first two. And I probably shouldn't even be eating avocados considering they're...
I know, but they're so yummy and they're so versatile. But they do always ripen right at the same moment. And if you don't grab them at that moment, whether it's 4 or 6 or 8 or whatever, it's nuts. I've been thinking a lot recently about, I think about this all the time as a restaurateur, but just the cultural practices around eating. And I think as I'm preparing the dinner for my 2 very small children, how we are not cooking nearly as much as previous generations did. We are going out to eat more, but not even going out to eat more, because that is a luxury for so many people.
Yeah.
We are consuming pre-packaged, prepared foods or ordering in, contributing to this convenience lifestyle that's really bad for a number of reasons. Number one, if nobody's cooking, who's teaching these kids how to cook?
Yeah.
Who's teaching these kids about recipes and heritage and everything like that? How are they going to feed themselves? Number two, I think about, because I'm looking at P&Ls that are like, here's all the shit you wasted. Here's all the time, everyone's time and labor that you wasted this week. And here's all the food that you wasted.
Yeah.
And I think about domestically, why are we all cooking in our individual households? Wouldn't it make so much more sense for someone who's already putting the effort? I don't have an answer for this, by the way. This is just me. This is me spouting the issue that I see. Like, why, if we had the capacity of 1 or 2 people making food for 20 to 25 people, wouldn't that be such a more effective use of their time? And then I started thinking, could I just like do this for my neighborhood once a week? Could I just like reach out to my neighborhood and say, hey, I'm making lasagna and salad. If you want to share, let me know and throw in $5 or whatever. It just, there's
I love
got
that idea.
to be, right? I mean, maybe I should try it.
Like, why not? I love that idea. When I was at Food and Wine, we did an amazing story on a group of people, mostly women, in Sonoma County, so California, who they made tamales together. So they would just like make a massive number of tamales, and then people took them home. And so they did the work together. And then they had it was like food for the freezer and for the future. And like, what a great way to, have some camaraderie, make some food, and have fun.
Be together. I mean, there's just so much. There's so much that gets passed down or passed along human to human. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking about, certain families who would make dumplings. Or I interviewed the you don't live here in Raleigh.
I heard I do.
There's 2 fabulous sisters who co-own with their parents a Lebanese fusion concept here called Sassoul. They have multiple locations. It's fabulous. But they were talking about just growing up in the kitchen rolling stuffed grape leaves with their aunties, and how, how annoying that was for them at the time as kids, but how formative it was to them becoming women.
Yeah.
And if we're not doing that together, there's just something that intangible and irreplaceable that's going to be lost. That's my concern. I don't know what my version of rolling stuffed grape leaves is for my kids is going to be, but I really will have to think of something.
I feel like you'll find something
when the time comes.
It'll come to you naturally, I think.
Yeah. I hope so.
I do feel there's something with the challenges of the economy. Mean that people are eating out. I mean, depending, but are eating out a little bit less and doing a little bit less takeout. The takeout business is, I don't know how you feel as a restaurateur, but it's really challenging because you have the black plastic and you have hot food in black plastic. So you're eating microplastics, and there's so much waste that goes along with that, in addition to like delivery fees. And so I feel like sometimes the economy can push us in a good direction as the counterbalance. So the counterbalance to doing takeout is doing just very simple food at home, right? Like, and so I'm hopeful that will take place. And the other thing that I find quite hopeful with Progressive Hedonist, we do events, but we do all kinds. Like there's potlucks, but I also have an artist workshop and a writer's workshop that are based around these notions of connecting people to nature, care more about nature, and protect it for the future. And though my current projects are writing and drawing, I've also done dyeing workshops. That's again the same idea of connecting people to nature. And I find that people have so much curiosity about the world of crafts and the world of doing things with their hands. And when you can tie that to food and friends and just having a good time, I feel like there's hope in that arena, that we're returning to some pride of craft, pride of repair, and doing these things together. These things that are really granny crafts, right? Like I told my mother that I wanted to take a watercolor class, and she was like, "You are way too young for that." I'm like, "What?" I think her point was, that's for old people who are, retired and not doing anything with their lives. But it's also for 20-somethings. It's for the people sort of who can find the time, no matter what the age is. So I love the granny crafts, and I love what that says about how more and more people want to get in touch with analog and tactile and, a more generative future.
Do you think we're going to see more and more of a return to that as we see more and more AI incorporated into our lives?
I do think they'll coexist. I think we have no idea where AI will land, and I wouldn't really necessarily pair crafts and AI, but I would pair an obsessive, isolated online life. So that could be continuous scrolling, it could be AI driven. But this idea that we do understand in our soul that we need to get off the screens will, I think, continue to push forward the crafts we do with our hands, the gathering we do with humans. And it's a big world. People will do everything, so we're talking about a particular subset of people who'll be drawn to the analog. I just happen to fall into that category, and I hope there's more and more of us.
How did you come to the name Progressive Hedonist?
That's such a good question. It was honestly a 2-year process. You would think that of all the things, but I was developing this, what am I really trying to say? And how do I do it in words that people will remember and doesn't sound like everything else? So the exercise included really boring things, like good food, good earth. And, just terrible. I have hundreds of terrible names. And,
no bad ideas in brainstorming, Dana.
Oh yeah, they're all bad. They're all bad. And in fact, there are people, when I was sharing the idea of progressive hedonists with the world, I talked to people on the activist side, and they were very offended. And they still are. There are people who are, they're longtime activists who find it offensive because
The name?
Yeah, because hedonism has a very particular selfish, self-centered, root and origin. And so the fact that I'm trying to change the perception of what pleasure means, there are people who just think it's a terrible idea. I talked to this very impressive, brilliant professor, businessman who's launched, many careers and much in the green space. And he is like, the first thing you need to do is change the name. I'm like, well, thank you. But what's the second thing? Because I'm not going to do that as the first thing. So the name came about just thinking I'm really trying to redirect and redefine what pleasure is, and the idea that instead of pleasure being self-centered, the idea is you can't experience pleasure if you're not thinking about the future and making progress. So I put the two things together, and depending on your age or stage, you think progressive hedonist are two words that are in conflict with each other. And I think that's for older generations. And the younger generations are like, that totally defines me. That defines my life. And they had no sense of the irony, right? They're like, of course, we all, want to live a great life, and we don't want to burn down our planet. So yes, we are both.
I mean, the latter resonates with me. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah. So, I like it just because it makes people stop. The only thing is that the H, progressive hedonist, it's hard for people to hear the H. There's a lot of repeating, and that's, people who do branding will say you should have a name that is easy to hear and easy to say. I'm like, well, it's really easy to read.
It is easy to read, and it's such a cool. I'm looking at it on my other screen over here because I also want to talk about, I want to get into your 3 principles a little bit, and I didn't want to botch them up. Um, was the process of solidifying the principles as labor intensive as the name, or was that easier to
It was
solidify?
all quite labor intensive. I had a phenomenal thought partner, a woman named Megan Bennett. She designed the Progressive Hedonist logo. She designed the website. And we just went back and forth on the name for those 2 years. I would say, I've come up with it. And she'd be like, no, that's not it. And she refused to design the logo until I'd really, and there was a reason, and she was really right to do it, until we refined what this was and was it the right words. And anyway, she was fantastic. That went equally for the principles. It just took a long time. I had a lot of people volunteer their time to help me. And there was someone who was highly organized and a great researcher who also helped figure out and write up the principles that are on the website, which honestly, in the real world, they've evolved a little bit from the website. But what she did is she took nonprofits and CPG businesses that were aligned in terms of principles. So good for humans, good for the earth, good for humanity. And she distilled all their messaging, and she distilled the general messaging and then their principles, and did a spreadsheet. And at the end of this massive, 50 rows down and 5 rows across, she took the learnings of what these nonprofits and for-profit companies were saying were the necessary principles to have a business that was good for humans and the planet. And that her work, we then refined a little bit to end up with the principles that we have today. But you'd think, as an editor, everything I did was very intuitive. This is where it was so nice to have someone help me who just loves a spreadsheet, loved the research, put everything together, and then synthesized all of it and came up with these bullet points that I then sort of wrote and codified.
Did you feel like you really did wrestle with it to make sure all of this was very intentionally aligned with what you were thinking conceptually?
It was a really great process because the 5 ideas that she came up with, we put through a couple of different screens. For example, it's good for the food world because that's the world that I'm addressing and that's the world we researched from. Would it be equally true in the fashion industry? Would it be equally true in tech? Like, are these principles general enough and solid enough to apply across industries? Because as much as I'm very focused on food and joy and climate, it's all intersectional. I mean, if you look at fashion, depending on what you're working with, the ingredients are grown, right? Cotton
That's true.
is grown.
Yeah.
It is just fashion is disposed of. And so that was also really interesting. She did such a great job that the principles were general enough that you could apply it across industries and it would also still be valid.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
we have source sustainably, which I think we have heard a lot, right? Meaning purchase things as locally as you can, right?
Yeah. All of these, one of the challenges that I came across was what you just said, which is we've heard it all before. So that's interesting. If we're trying to make a movement to have people change behaviors, how do you change up the language to make people listen? Or how do you make it feel more applicable to them? When we say source sustainably, we generally do mean local.
As much as you can. I mean,
Right.
it's
And
hard to
local,
live that way entirely.
it's very hard to live that way entirely, But I was talking to someone who is a Taiwanese importer, and we were talking about doing an event together. And I was like, well, I'm just a little concerned about the footprint of the ingredients that we would be using. And can we talk about this? And she opened my eyes. I do believe in supporting local, partly because it's important for the local businesses to survive, right? In addition to being good for land. But her products that come from Taiwan are organic. They come from farms that are family run. They're run in such a way that it is good for that community. It is good for those people, and it is good for the planet. And the transportation miles, which is what I was so concerned about, the energy expense, was modest because it came by boat. So it turns out, yes, we do want to support local, but we also want to support growing practices, techniques, and communities that are doing the right thing, as long as the transportation costs or the packaging costs aren't upending any good we would be doing. So that was just a different perspective for me, because I'd never thought about it. I'm like, okay, I take that on. And then I did a little bit more research. I'm like, is she just saying this because this is her business? And, I'm sure there's divided opinions and everything, but some amount of research suggests that that there is a place for something like that.
I don't think people consider those factors, though, when they think about the phrase source sustainably, always. So I think that that's really important as well. How does it get here? What are the practices used to make the thing? And what are the practices used to get the thing here?
Yes.
All of those contribute to that equation, not necessarily just going to the North Carolina farmers market to get your collard greens, right?
And it's really a tragedy, I think. Well, that's too big a word. It's I wish that farmers markets had been the answer, right, to changing the food system, and that having farmers markets in so many places meant that we'd solved the food crisis, and it just hasn't been. So we have to look at so many other ways to address food systems in the future.
So I'll use the second principle, which is reduce copiously, to catch you up on my pizza party.
I want to hear all about it. I wanted to start with that, but I thought that would be so rude. Take over this podcast right now. I really want to know about your pizza party.
So we're recording this in spring of 2026. I have had this idea for years to do a pizza event in concert with March 14th, which is 314, or pi for you math nerds out there. So it would be a pi event for Pi Day. So many of my ideas, I think, are so brilliant, and they are just completely disruptive to my restaurant operations. And the staff they humor me to a degree, but I've kind of started to just back up because the juice is not worth the squeeze, as we say. So the Progressive Hedonist potluck was a perfect excuse to do this. I originally wanted to do a potluck dinner in September of 2025, and then Hurricane Helene decimated my state, and then life happened, and or 2024 it was, whatever. Time is not real. So the pizza party concept that I landed on was, okay, invite a bunch of friends over, have everybody bring something from their fridge that's already open or about to go bad. We're going to make a giant pizza topping bar on my counter. Chris, my husband, has a big uni oven that he's obsessed with, that he set up on the back deck. And we had everybody make their own pizza, little mini pizza. And it was just so fun. I wish I had taken more pictures. I always forget to take pictures during the thing.
Yeah.
But I did have a few.
Some of the toppings. Like, what did people bring? Like, were they creative? Were they, exciting?
We had a plate of avocado, roasted red peppers, sliced tomatoes, a bunch of sliced mushrooms. We had done some prime rib something for an event at one of the restaurants, and there was a bunch of leftover prime ribs, so we took that home and we sliced it up real thin. We had several different kinds of cheeses in our fridge that were already open. Gorgonzola, feta, Gouda, whatever. People brought open bags of kale greens. People brought open bags of arugula. I think the best, most innovative pizza of the event was we had some open, not everybody has this. We had open fromage blanc in our fridge.
Oh my God.
But
Perfect.
so like I get that like that's not common. But then someone had brought leftover macaroni and cheese from their like kids mac and cheese night the night before, and we did fromage blanc, macaroni and cheese on
No.
a pizza,
Ah,
and then drizzled hot sauce on the top. And I know it might sound
no, sounds
gross.
delicious.
It was out of this world.
Sounds like a great like hot pocket, like a calzone,
Ye-
just like folded over, bacon, gooey. Oh my God, that sounds
Big and
delicious.
gooey, and then the kids ate it without the hot sauce and
Yeah.
loved it. And then the grown with the hot sauce to cut through all that creaminess was just like delicious.
Yes.
And it was a really great time. We got to introduce some families that had never met each other
Nice.
before. Kids were making pizzas with their parents. It was a beautiful day, so we were like in and out of the house and had the doors open, but we could still have a fire in the fire pit. Drank some great wine that.
Did you find it low pressure or sort of high pressure? Because you probably made all the pizza dough, right?
Well, we have a pizza program at Glass House Kitchen, so we just
that's
took
not
pizza
hard
dough
for you. Because I
from the
think
restaurant.
some people, they might be listening. They're like, oh, that sounds like fun, but oh my God, so much work, right? And I
But
think
it wasn't. And to answer your question, very low pressure, because either you can buy pizza dough from your grocery store right now. It's so easy to find, or if you want to, you can probably call a
yes, you can, right?
local pizza restaurant and ask, "Hey, could I buy some pizza dough from you?"
Yeah.
And then you could buy a pre-made crust if you wanted, if you needed to. I mean, there's definitely options, but it wouldn't have to be pizza. You could do pasta and
Right, big
cook a
pasta
big
bar.
bowl of pasta, which is
Fun.
also very low lift, very economical, and have people make their own pasta bowl.
I think also just getting the kids involved and people, that you made something that's an individual size. So everybody gets to have exactly, if you don't want the cherry tomatoes, you don't have the cherry tomatoes. If you don't eat meat, you don't. So I don't know. It just sounds like so much fun. And also I will say that when I go to these events, at the one that I described, which was on Monday, and I did have these things that I should have turned into a pesto, but I also had so many leftover brownies from a party that I had done the week before. And every time I pass those brownies, I'm like, ugh, I can't throw them out because it's food. I absolutely can't eat them because it's like a sugar bomb. And so I brought those. It made me feel so good to move them out of the house and share them with other people. Like just that sharing and reducing your own waste. It's really fun.
I'm obsessed with this banana peel thing you mentioned earlier.
Too.
You're not the first person I've spoken to recently that's talking about using banana peels to do as a meat substitute.
Yeah.
It's just very fascinating.
It's a substitute for jackfruit, right?
Right.
Obviously it's a substitute for meat, but it's a substitute because a lot of people aren't fond of jackfruit. That has been like the go-to vegetarian or vegan version
of pulled pork or what have you.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But then I've noticed a theme in these no waste potlucks of plantains and banana peels across the board. So that was a tostada in the guise of pulled pork, but an event that I did the week before, someone made a plantain ferment, which was delicious. And then an earlier no waste, someone made a banana cream cake. And I'm like, oh my God. It was
really
good. It was delicious. I mean, it was also a woman named Paris Starn, who's a bit of a genius. So I'm not sure in everybody's hands is perfect, but she just made a miracle for sure.
Well, to your point also, you posted a video, I don't know when it was, about you had a bowl of leftover produce and you threw it in a field.
Yes, exactly. That's often how it goes.
Right? Instead of
I don't even
I know you.
Yeah.
If you're in an urban area like you are, you can't throw it in your backyard. Composting is not necessarily available to you. So I have also started doing that as much as I can, keeping the scraps. If I'm not making a broth with it, which I do often in the winter, but in the warmer months, if I'm not making a broth, keeping that in the fridge with like leftover greens and the onion tops and the leftover carrots that my kids don't eat, and cored out pepper middles and orange peels and all that stuff. And then we do have a backyard.
Yeah.
And I just throw it into the wood. I just throw it into the woods.
Yeah. So
And I don't see any, it just doesn't give me any issues. So if that is your situation and you have permission. Dana gives you permission.
I do. I mean, the question that I've gotten from pictures or stories like that is, what about the animals? And we have a lot of animals in our backyard, but none of them are interested in my leftovers. I do not know why. They do not come eat the corn cobs. They don't eat the coffee grounds. They don't eat the apple cores. They don't eat any of it.
I don't have an issue with animals either.
Yeah,
quite
so
frankly.
I don't know what that's about,
but yeah, I mean, does it say something about my waist?
Exactly. What does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And then the final principle is live abundantly, which I think seems to be more of a call to action in being together, being in community, recognizing what you do have, being grateful for what you have. My mantra of 2026 is make the most of what you already have.
That's great in every way.
I am not, the last 8 years have been a lot about go, 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 survive, grow, 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 grow. This year is like, no, we're going to make the most of what we already have so that the universe knows we're thankful for it, and we might eventually be ready to receive again, right?
I'm sure could you receive all along the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So can you tell us a little more about living abundantly and what that means to you?
I think you've done a beautiful job of describing what it means to you. I started Progressive Hedonist in part out of this sense of isolation and fear. And that, with those feelings, you begin to close in on yourself and you don't live abundantly. And that notion of how do you create a sense of abundance? It's not about economics, it's about mindset. And so for me, the abundance is watching and observing and finding joy. If I'm walking through the park and just paying attention to the abundance of beauty, that is very soul-filling for me. So there's a version which is there's abundance all around us, and let's not forget that, and let's appreciate while we're also trying to do more. And then there's the abundance in that I think you breed abundance when you develop and deepen your relationships with other people. And so that idea is living abundantly is living in community with people, whether it's bowling night. I don't think I've ever done a bowling night, but whatever,
whatever it is,
having people over for coffee and a book giveaway, which I did last summer. I had my neighbors walk over with coffee because I didn't want to feed anyone. And I had cookbooks that I had an abundance of, and I want to give away that abundance. And in sharing an abundance that I have, it creates a sense of universal, give and take. So I think there's abundance everywhere. And even in these somewhat restricted times, it's even more important to recognize, as you said, what we have, working with what we have, appreciating what we have, and building that sense of when we build relationships with people we don't know or that we do know, the sense of our world getting larger and more fulsome is perhaps the most meaningful thing. And that's what I've learned after doing 2 years of these events. I at first was really focused on the small changes that people could make, particularly around waste and sourcing. And that was great. Those are messages that people had, but they became more conscious in their everyday life. And I do feel it had an impact. But the greatest impact after all of these events and going forward is watching the relationships that get knit together and how people support one another and how this community grows I've never tried to build a community or a movement. It's at Food and Wine magazine, we had millions of readers, and the way you find them is consumer marketing. You're marketed to and you pay money, and then you're part of this universe. And now I'm doing it like person by person, city by city, group by group, just knitting together these communities. And that gives such a sense of wealth, just the wealth of relationships and the wealth of possibility and the wealth of, sharing happiness. So at the end of the day, these events and the progressive hedonist model is around the third pillar, essentially, because people leave feeling more connected.
I have chills hearing you say that. Ooh.
And I bet I'm sure that happened after the pizza party. I do think it's always important to have people who know each other and don't know each other, because that's how, that's
the best party.
That's the best party. Yeah.
Oh man, I just had like 3 simultaneous questions at once, and they all went away.
They'll come back.
You put the podcast down for a moment. Will the podcast wake back up at some point?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I love conversations with people. I don't like marketing them. And I think that so there's another way for me to have conversations that I can share that doesn't involve podcast marketing. Like, podcast is a very flooded market.
And guess what? As I've learned, it's a lot of fucking work to do this.
It's so much work. It's so, and I had help, on the engineering side and distribution. But even that, when I think about, would I rather impact 40 people deeply for an event and they, or would I rather do a podcast? I'd rather touch 40 people, in their hearts and keep going.
In real life.
In real life.
Yeah. I imagine, I'm sure I said this earlier, you and I both have lots of ideas swirling around us all the time about programming and events. How do you understand which ones are worth pursuing and which ones might be shiny object syndrome?
I have a very good gut sense, and I also don't mind if I'm wrong. There is no wrong as far as I'm concerned, right? Right now, there's a lovely momentum with Progressive Hedonist, so more people are asking me to do events than I probably have time for, and so it's a question of personal satisfaction. And what's personally satisfying to me is touching more people, impacting more people, right? So, yeah, I don't find that it hasn't yet been a challenge. It might become a challenge in the future, but so far,
I'm sure a lot of people ask for your time.
I mean, so far it's more, it's sort of like in the making of yogurt, you have the whey and then you have the yogurt, and the whey is like very valuable. And so I don't think that any request I've ever had is worthless, but some, you set aside for another time to make something else completely.
And then my last question for you, wonderful Dana Cowin, who's been so generous with your time. I am a firm believer that joy is resistance. That is a principle that I follow deeply. And the joy bucket must be continuously tended. So how are you, Dana, finding joy right now?
I feel very lucky in that it's sort of the centerpiece of my life, right? Because Progressive Hedonist is built for joy. That the idea is to help others, including myself, experience joy, to galvanize for a difficult future or to take on the fight. So my day is filled with joy. It's filled with fight. And so I find joy in people and deepening relationships with people. But I also find joy walking through Central Park, which is outside my door. I find joy I'm a terrible artist, but in like learning to use watercolor. I find joy in very, very, very bad TV. Very bad TV, which only started It's crazy. I cannot believe how bad it's gotten. Bad TV and bad books. Not, just like trashy. I find that super relaxing.
I'm so glad to hear you say that,
Mm.
because the more serious I get in my pursuits, the more junk I consume for entertainment.
Yeah.
Like the
And
trashier and trashier my entertainment tastes seem to be getting.
I turned a corner. I mean, they've just gotten so bad. But it's all post-pandemic, because before the pandemic, which now is obviously a long time ago, but I never watched TV. I never, ever, ever watched TV. That's
Well, you were out and about. You were on the town, working and traveling, I'm sure. And
yeah, I'm probably out and about, whatever. Anyway, no TV, now TV.
now
like,
TV.
It's like I'm out at an event and it's 10 o'clock. I'm like, but wait a minute, I still have to get my hour of trashy TV and I gotta go.
Mhm.
It's cuckoo. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, on John Oliver's recommendation, consumed the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and it was highly entertaining. He was not
it really?
wrong. It was highly entertaining.
I've never watched anything in that franchise, but
Oh, it's horrible.
horrible.
It's just horrible, but highly entertaining, and it does help me decompress at the end of the day, and then I have, it sends me on this on-ramp to the sweetest little sleep. So, well, Dana, thank you. I really have cherished meeting you. Thank you so much for everything you're doing with Progressive Hedonist. If you who are listening would like to learn more, you can go to Dana's website at Dana, that's DANA, Cowin, COWIN.com to learn more about Progressive Hedonist and how you can get involved, host your own potluck, have your own pizza party, and learn more about her principles.
I'm all about it. I've been lucky enough to have a lot of people volunteer to host Progressive Hedonist parties like you. I feel so lucky trying to get it going in the wild, because that's when it really takes flight. So if anyone's listening and they want to host, I have a guidebook. It's super simple. I try to make it as easy as possible for people. So, yeah. And if you want to IG DM me at progressive_hedonist on Instagram, if that's easier for you. I love an IG DM. In fact, I think that's how we planned this.
It is. It is. Yeah. Well, have a wonderful rest of your week, Dana. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Her Seat at the Table. I hope you leave inspired with a morsel of motivation to take into your day, your week, into the next chapter of your career. And if you loved today's episode, share it with someone who you think could benefit from hearing it, and maybe consider leaving us a 5-star review. I hope to see you soon, and thank you so much for listening to Her Seat at the Table.